Hello guys, welcome again to the channel. So today's video is just going to show you guys what are the top decks in standard right after the banning of Vivi, Screaming, Nemesis, and Pop's Memory. So as you can see here, this list is the result of a MTG Online Challenge 32. So I think this was held last November 15th. And I think it was last Saturday, and you can just picture out already what is the deck that has kind of became, we cannot say it's dominant, but particularly popular choice for these top competitive players. And you can see here, the one finished is basically not that of the popular choice, if you'll notice. So the finishing deck on the top was Simic Aggro. This was played by Batantina. So this list has been lingering already for maybe a few weeks, and with not that already dominating, but now that we know that Vivi has retired out of standard or has been banned, we can show that this deck would be one of the top tier builds in the metagame. Though we might still see some changes once the avatar set becomes legal to play, that which is basically this coming weekend. So you can see the list. This is particularly, let's switch again back to the text so we can see the lands. It's 32 lands only, mostly creatures, and only 4 spells with the Innkeeper's talent. But of course, these creature choices particularly has each significant role of not only becoming a relevant card, like ramping, doing some protection for opponent's spot removals, disrupting them, of course, Beast Binders and Downer are your main play, and of course copying them with the Jackal is basically very strong play for this deck. And of course dominating them with the Orboroid and putting those counters, and particularly also having Tybar the Familiar as your other mana sink to have them pump equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So that's basically a little damage per se, but you can already picture out that this would be one of the look of the competitive deck build for the standard format right after, even with the avatar set will be joining standard. And just a quick rundown of the sideboard. So we have 3 Dragon Sniper for the mirror match. In other aggro decks, this Info Stroke, of course, control Keen-Eyed Curator to do well against shenanigans and graveyards. Of course, Repulsive Invitation will be your best counter spell against mid-range and control decks. Wear Down to destroy enchantments and artifacts also, and giving a card will also get them to destroy 2 target artifacts and enchantments. Additional Tidebinder, additional Tybar, and of course additional Substance Loxa Embodied for this build. Now let's take a look at the other deck that has done for another finish. We have Temur Aggro. This was played by Lemonade Archery. So let's switch to text. It's particularly 22 lands still, but the choices here, it's really of a control ramp setup because of utilizing specific cards. Let's check the visuals again. The cards that are kind of looking to have for this build is this enchantment, Storm Chaser's Talent, with Enduring Vitality, Talifad Color, and some of these shenanigans with the Quantum Riddler. So deck is basically as a mid-range, as you know, but we have ways also to not only doing the ramp, fixing mana bases, controlling opponent's aggro with Torch the Tower, and then maybe winning in the late game with a huge mana ramp or mana sink for the Sound Totten hands. Okay, so that is your Temur mid-range. I think for this one, this not might be for me, it's like an unusual deck build. Of course, we would also expect the standard to be that not of its choices, or we can still see some blues in the late for this kind of deck. And for the sideboard, we have a variance over here, but do make sure that these cards would still be changing with the inclusion of the last avatar in the standard format. So the shenanigans, of course, graveyard hate, artifact and spot removal, counter spells, disenchants, of course more sweeps, and of course planeswalkers for the late game battle against mid-range and control decks. Now let's take a look again as a Dimir Aggro. As I mentioned, this has become the survivor of the banning. But because, given that it's still a Tier 1 deck, the adjustments for the matchups would particularly be affected, especially with the inclusion of the last avatar. But for now, let's take a look at just the rundown of the cards. Of course, the 1-drops would include Steel Cecil, Dark Knight, and Spyga Siren. The Disrupting 2-drop, of course, Deep Cavern Bat will be the best choice here, along with Floodpit's Drowner. And the 3-mana cost will include maybe ramping or having Kaito to Ninjutsu with Spyglass or a Floodpit's Drowner, or just disrupt your opponent's trigger ability, activated ability, with Tishana's Tidebinder. So the late game will of course involve enduring curiosity that has resolved, but even with a few spot removals, as long as it's not the Nexal effect, this card would still be lingering back on the battlefield as an enchantment, and therefore having the same trigger to get you some good card advantage and refill your hand. So you can see we have a lot of evasive detached creatures. Some of them would be backed up by spot removals, of course, and of course counter spells would still be very essential for this kind of deck. So that is your Dimir look, and even with the inclusion of the last avatar, I think this build would improve because of the reprinting of the Heartless Act would make it the removal more efficient. So it's likely that the Tragic Trajectory will be lessened, maybe only 2 copies, and have Heartless Act as your main spot removal to replace that slot. And the sideboard, of course, discard effects, since we have the blue and black nature of this deck. Duress would be your best discard in the standard format. Spot removals for cheap stab, more counter spells, Disdainful Stroke, Graveyard Hate, board presence with Preacher the Schism, which can also trade up with that touch and create your army of bonfires. Also Lord Skeeter would also do the same with creating this black rat creature tokens, and additional Graveyard Hate in the form of Strategic Betrayal. So overall, that would be the list of the deck that would still expect with this metagame after even after the standard inclusion of the last avatar. And lastly, let's take a look at maybe just a look of a control. So it's been a while since we have seen a control list that has maybe had a decent finish in the top of this deck, but this version of control is particularly getting advantage of Silver Galactum Synthesizer. So this version of Azorius Control is basically an Azorius artifact build, and if you've been following the metagame, this would be the usual setup of this deck with cheap mana cost sweep, split up, ramp in the form of clarified bricks, delaying opponents' aggro with Braided Net, and of course the Simic spot removal for Lusnir, and Pinnacle Starcage to sweep those cheap aggro, and your repurposing bay for basically searching up for your best 3 mana cost or 4 mana cost artifacts to that value. So in the late game particularly, you can still have this Fire Crystal as long as you have established several golem tokens or construct tokens from the synthesizer. And basically the Fire Crystal would be your best late game finisher on just one attack by having them gain haste for this setup. And for the sideboard, of course, you can notice that it's already main deck for against the aggro haste creatures, so authoritative consoles will be a problem against them. And also having a main deck exile effect for the graveyard. That means that the sideboard will only rely on specific cards, such as Get Lost for additional spot removal, Negate, of course, against the other aggro, and maybe even for the mirror, because countering this one are basically non-creature spells. Voice of Victory to protect your turn against your opponent's spells, because they would not be able to cast those shenanigans. Of course, Rest in Peace for the graveyard shenanigan answer, and additional Star Cage and Split Up for the aggro matchups. So I think overall, again, Blue Eye Control would also look like this synthesizer list, or we can expect maybe the old school build with Elspeths, stack ups, and Cardo effects. But we will have another look again once the last avatar would be legal to play. And as a quick reference, this list is from this website, MTG Top 8, so you can still explore as they constantly upgrade or update some new tournament results from the uploading by its users. Basically, from the standard column here, you can see, if we can click in a bit, you can see already here the last 30 events that they are being uploaded, and this list is constantly being updated. So you just wanted to just visit them once in a while. So for that, let's start up this video. This is again the quick rundown of probably the top tier decks after the banning in standard and before the last avatar set has entered the format. So again, if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, notifications on, and see you guys in the next video upload.